How do we learn to live a life? Not to live or die by a single identity, I am a Muslim, but to be able to understand in proclaiming that identity, we are able to encompass other identities, like we have in South Africa, to be able to say we are South African Muslims, to be able to say we are South African Muslims of Malay origin or Indian origin, and enjoy all that those multiple identities are able to offer us, where they don't contradict each other. How do we avoid either assimilation, where we get rid of our Islamic heritage, our Islamic identity, in order to fit in to this broader society? And how do we at the same time avoid the pitfalls of isolating ourselves and making ourselves live in little Pakistans, little Bangladeshs, and little Indias, and little Arab states within a broader British society? Because people isolated don't have either the credibility or the access to be able to spread this message that we have. In our theological life, we face the challenge of being guided by the eternal, the timeless, and the universal ethical framework that Islam presents, the eternal, timeless, and universal value system, and the spiritual underpinnings of our Deenul Islam, and not simply be tied up by the madhabs and the imitations and the rules that we sometimes spend so much time debating. The length of our pants, the length of our beards, all of those may find its place. But in a world screaming for answers to environmental, political, economic, financial, banking, and all other crises, it is frivolous in the extreme to be diverted from the main tasks of presenting the Islamic ethical framework, spiritual foundation, and value systems that would be required. We must be guided by the very simple Islamic dictum that our purpose in life is to be a benefit for humanity and to prevent harm being done to humanity. If you want to summarize the raison d'être of a Muslim, it is to be a benefit and to prevent harm. Around that, everything is detailed. And if we can understand that, we begin to understand what is required of us. If we understand that, we can then begin to understand why it is that well into Nubuwah, after receiving prophethood, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam referred to something that he was a part of before Nubuwah, called the Hilful Fudul, the alliance of the virtuous, the coming together of those who have only one aim, and that is to be good, to be a benefit. When all the tribes and clans came together to protect the weak, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam later said, I was part of a most excellent agreement, the Hilful Fudul. And if today in Islam I was called upon to do the same, I will gladly respond. How is it that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the early Muslims could make these coalitions in the face of their problems at the time, but we are not able to make the same kind of coalitions to solve the global problems of the world? We need to understand that for us to be able to play this role, we need to go back to the words of people like Ibn al-Qayyim, may Allah be pleased with their work, in which he gives us a working definition that can make us relevant in the world today of Sharia. Ibn al-Qayyim in the year 748 after Hijrah wrote and I quote, Sharia is based on wisdom and achieving people's welfare in this world and in the afterlife. Sharia is all about justice, mercy, wisdom, and good. Thus, any ruling that replaces justice with injustice, mercy with its opposite, common good with mischief, or wisdom with nonsense, is a ruling that does not belong to the Sharia, even if it is claimed to be so, according to some interpretations. That's a far cry from the rules-based systems that we have inherited, that begins to eke away at our contribution that we can be making in the world today. Ibn Taymiyyah, may Allah be pleased with him and have mercy on his soul, goes even further by saying, and I quote, Allah sanctions the just state even if it is unbelieving, and Allah does not sanction the unjust state even if it is Muslim. The affairs of this world can be managed with justice and unbelief, but not with injustice and Islam. And in our responses to what's going on in the global ummah, have we taken account of the words of Ibn al-Qayyim or Ibn Taymiyyah in our trying to make sense of our role in Britain, in Europe, in the broad non-Muslim world where we don't make the rules? Have we understood how we use the words of Ibn al-Qayyim and Ibn Taymiyyah as yardsticks to make sense of our contribution that we should be making? And that, I think, is what stands between us and the positive impact that we can make in the world. The most important thing is to understand the notion as Khalifatullah fil Ard, that we are the vicegerents or the representatives or the agents of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on earth. Agents of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala don't react, they proact. Others don't determine our behavior for us. We are never the victims of our emotions. We are never justified in doing wrong because wrong is done unto us.